Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass Podcast. This is for UFC Vegas 99. The great one, Cody Saftic. Jared's on the sticks as well. The great one, I hear that they're calling it this week.
Well, if you're a Canadian hockey fan because of Wayne Gretzky, perhaps. But in actuality, this is like Fight Night 247, and all the naming conventions are all wonky as hell. So take it for what it is, Paul.
I am 100% taking it for what it is. There's a good PFL card this week, so if you're not feeling too great about certain spots here, maybe able to, parlay them up with somebody over on the PFL side. It's a little chalky over in those streets, but definitely a stacked Saturday of MMA action. Let's get into the main event of the UFC card here, though. We've got Anthony Fluffy Hernandez taking on Michel Pereira, minus 130 for Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, plus 150 for Pereira. It's a pretty classic striker versus grappler. I mean, Pereira's got some grappling in his bag of tricks. The struggle here for, me, I've been beating the drum for Pereira. I want kind of more wacky, crazy stuff. Here he is in a position now that it's like he's really actually climbing a division. He's putting himself in a situation. It's like, frankly, if he beats Fluffy, he's probably fighting a top 5 opponent next time out there. Good on him. I do worry about his cardio. If Fluffy's able to implement his game plan, get takedowns, push a pace, I don't think Pereira's got 5 rounds in his tank of fighting off those takedowns, recovering, getting back to his feet. Whenever it's on the feet, I mean, Pereira can knock out anybody, but I don't know if I'm going to bet it, but I am worried that the run for my boy Michel comes to an end here on Saturday. I'll take Fluffy. Maybe it has to do with the gloves being a little bit less pop in them. That hasn't stopped Pereira from knocking dudes out recently, but can't help. So yeah, Fluffy for me. What about you?
Yeah, I don't know. He's actually only got one knockout win in the last 5 years. So whereas he can knock dudes out by doing this crazy stuff, he just really hasn't in a long time. And this is not a great fight to do crazy backflips off the cage or spinning wheel kicks and all that jazz, simply because it is a 5-round fight. He doesn't want to overexert himself. So the Pereira power puncher, I don't know that guy's the guy that shows up Saturday night. But yeah, you're right. He's capable of landing something crazy. And gloves or not, the dude lands with flying knees, spinning back fists, spinning back wheel kicks. He kind of does it all. So yeah, I can see Pereira maybe sparking him, but this is a perfect culmination to me. I've been waiting for Fluffy Hernandez to get booked in a 5-round fight for quite some time, but the guy's built for 5 rounds. He pushes an incredible pace, and he seems to have a very deep gas tank. So he's one of these guys similar to a Jacob Malkoun that maybe does lack certain skills in other areas, but he just pushes such a hectic tempo on these guys that he breaks them down over time. He can weaponize his cardio, take them to deeper rounds, and then find his better success there. So this is great for Fluffy. And then, like you said, on Pereira's side of things, back when he was just a crazy man, he had a round and a half worth of cardio. Now he paces himself out. So he's got 3 rounds of cardio. But in both scenarios, he still does gas before the last bell rings. And I do think that in a 5-round fight, it's not going to favor him. So if his path of victory here is just intercept Fluffy on some, lazy double leg takedown with a flying knee straight up the middle, yeah, crazy. Anybody can win a fight by knockout. But beyond that, he's probably going to get taken down, ridden for a while, tired. Then all of a sudden, those explosive movements aren't quite there. That footwork isn't quite there. You got to wonder. And then you look at Pereira, right? So I love the guy. But the UFC realizes that he's very limited. He's an all-action guy. So they book him against all-action guys. This is his whole run. Danny Roberts is cut. Tristan Connolly is cut. Diego Sanchez retired. I don't know what he's doing, but he's cut. Zelim Imadaev's cut. Chaos Williams kind of hanging on to a job. And if you watch that fight, Chaos Williams outstrikes him 55-44. It's a nail biter. It's a super close fight. But he edges out Chaos Williams, a not even top 15 guy. I digress. Goes the distance with Nico Price in a fairly competitive fight. That didn't age well. Andre Filo's cut. Santiago Ponzinibbio was, on his go around, the new version of Pons with one eye and one hip. Not quite the version we're accustomed to. And even then, it's a split decision win. So if Chaos Williams and Ponzinibbio are his steps up, everybody else has been cut. he's not even really blowing out the bottom end of the top 15 of the division. And beyond that, Roberts, Connolly, I guess, Zimadayev, Chaos Williams, Nico Price, Andre Filo, Ponzinibbio, they're all strikers. They've booked them almost exclusively with mid 15 competition strikers that are no longer on the promotions roster. And those guys he's capable of beating, sometimes beating them in spectacular fashion. Then he decides to move up to 185 pounds. That run includes Andrei Petroski, who's awful, but the first wrestler that he actually has fought. But Petroski shoots 0 takedowns because he knocks him out in 1 minute and 6 seconds. That's that one knockout in the 5 years is Petroski. Then he gets booked with Mikey O and Eor Peteria, 2 other guys that cannot grapple. They're strikers, and they're not ranked in the top 15. So this is like a really cool little win streak he's on. What, 7 straight fights against nobody that's ranked and almost exclusively strikers, other than Petroski. That one ended before it started. So yeah, I mean, Fluffy's got a clear path to victory here. Not only does he got the deeper cardio, but I mean, who does he not take down? Fluffy Hernandez takes down absolutely everybody. 3 takedowns on Roman Kopylov, 6 on Edmund Shabazian, 8 on Marc-Andre Barrio, 8 on Josh Frem. Rodolfo Vieira, he didn't actually take down Rodolfo. Rodolfo took him, got tired of grappling with the guy, and then eventually got caught in a guillotine choke. So Fluffy knows how to go into some deeper waters with guys. He knows how to push a pace. He knows how to ground his opponent. He is striking similar to Jacob Malkoun. It's not his bread and butter, but it has improved. Improved enough for him to box you up a little bit and then shoot that takedown. Pereira is always going to be a threat in the early going, but keep in mind, this is a guy that was having his best success really at 170 pounds. At 185, he still is a little bit undersized. Hernandez is a pretty sizable middleweight, and he just puts on such a pace on you that I do find that he drowns him. 5-round fight, live bet opportunity, maybe for Fluffy, maybe. But Fluffy takes him down in the first round and puts a beating on him, which he's capable of doing. You'll never see that minus 135 ever again. So for me, it's Fluffy Hernandez to get the job done, probably by decision. But again, it's 5 rounds, so I wouldn't be shocked to see Pereira at some point get tired of just getting back up and getting taken back down again and getting back up. And then the guy's got 1 hook, and then he's got 2 hooks, and then he's got your back, and then you scramble, and then you explode, and then he takes you back down again. Maybe at some point he kind of gives up on himself and gives up a rear naked choke or something, maybe a guillotine choke, but probably Fluffy rinse and repeat with the takedowns towards a decision.
Or he just gets to a situation where he's down 2 or 3 rounds. He feels, the lactic acid building up, and then he goes back to his old YOLO mode. And
could be
either gets the finish or dies trying, that would be probably in the range of outcomes for him as well. Yeah, for 5 rounds, I know he's been training, I think, a little bit at altitude. That can't hurt, obviously, but this turns into Fluffy's style of fight. I just don't think that Michel's got 5 rounds of that in him, but we'll find out on Saturday. We've got Kyler Phillips taking on Rob Font. Kyler Phillips is the biggest favorite on the card at minus 450. Rob Font can be half plus 320. Who you got?
Yeah, okay. I don't like Kyler Phillips all that much. I love his style. I love the fact that the guy is just extremely athletic, very explosive, very good wrestling, trains out of the MMA lab, which is one of my favorite gyms. He's got all of it going for him. It's like that heart. Like, does he have the heart of a lion? Is he willing to get dropped, get back up, and do the damn thing and save my ticket? If things get greasy, is he going to pull ahead? And although he's very extremely talented, yeah, I don't know that he's necessarily proven that to me. So to bet him at this kind of price tag over someone who's talented at Rom Font, I don't love it, but the easy path to victory is there for Kyler Phillips. So I will bite the bullet, but here's what I'm getting at on him. You look at some of these wins, his fight with Song Yadong, right? He has an early start on Song Yadong, and then all of a sudden he starts taking a lot of damage the later that fight goes. Even though it's a 3-round fight, he's hurt a bunch of times. His fight with Rolian Pava, he 10-8s Rolian Pava in the first round. The second and the third round, he just doesn't do anything. He just stands in front of a guy that's a ballooned up flyweight and gets boxed up a little bit. He's quick on those quick starts, and he's all confidence based. So if he has his way the entirety of the fight, then he's going to be fine. If he has to face adversity, he kind of gets a little bit shaky. I'm not sold on his durability. I'm not sold on his heart. So like a minus 450 price tag is a little bit much. Rob Font, meanwhile, I mean, there's no denying he's fought in the better level of competition. There's no doubt that he's a much better striker, even though he's another one of these guys that's not the biggest power puncher per se. He can throw out tons of volume. He's been in there with the likes of Marlon Vera, Jose Aldo, former champion Cody Garbrandt, Ricky Simone, Marlon Moraes, Corey Sanhagen, another former champion, Davidson Figueiredo. He's been there, done that, and all those guys respect his striking. If he can figure out a way to keep this fight standing, I think he boxes Phillips' face off. Phillips will have initial success. Again, very athletic. He'll explode into the pocket. He likes to utilize elbows in short range. But at some point, that jab's just going to get flowing for Font. The problem here is that Font has apparently non-existent takedown defense. These last two fights, the one with Corey Sandhagen, I watched him in Nashville, he gives up 7 takedowns. But beyond that, it's a 5-round fight. 7 takedowns, he gives up 19 minutes and 38 seconds of top control. It's like once you get him down, which is very easy, apparently, there's no real get-up game. Seeing that was very disheartening. Sandhagen afterwards says, I tore my tricep in the first, so I decided to just ground this guy. And Font still can't do nothing about it. Mm-hmm. So subsequently, he's fighting Davidson Figueiredo, and then you and I, we load up on Davidson. And we utilize this theory that even Davidson, a guy at 25, moving up to 135, he took down a 2-time state champ in Cody Garbrandt. You don't think he's going to take down Rob Font? And he does, easily. He gets the 4 takedowns and only rides about a little under 5 minutes of top control time. But I feel like that mixed in with some striking can win you the fight. We know that Phillips can strike a little bit, very explosive, but we know the guy can wrestle. And I think the first 2 rounds, if he just explodes in, gets Font to respect that big power that he has early, get him to use a bit of a high guard, shoot under, take this guy down, hold him down for the first 2 rounds, and then sadly run away in the third. And to bet a guy minus 450, I hate that that's the game plan. It's just like take him down for the first 2 and neutralize him, and then don't get hurt in the third. Run away in the third. Font's getting a little bit older. Phillips is still a young guy. There is a world here where Phillips just blows right through him and proves me absolutely wrong. But to this point, I would say that this is a bit of a step up for him and a bit of a step down for Font. He needs to take him down, and he needs to hold him down. If he does that, he'll make this thing look easy. If he doesn't, he's giving up some length and some actual striking to his opponent, Rob Font. So I'm going to take Kyler Phillips, but I'll be the first one to admit that for a big price tag guy, I don't love him.
Yeah, and let's not forget the Rally and Pava fight with Phillips, where he utilized that wrestling, but it's like his cardio fell off of a cliff.
That's the problem, because when you're that fast and you're fast twitch muscle and you're explosive, like you look like $1 million and then you tire. And we saw that Pacini kid last night on the Contender Series. This guy's a 3-time D1 All-American out of Oklahoma. This guy can do it all. He's very explosive. Striking really didn't look half bad, but when everything you do is 0 to 60, 0 to 60, 0 to 60, 0 to 100, right? Then yeah, you're going to burn yourself out. They're not at altitude. It's nothing like that. But when you are a credible opponent that can get taken down and survive and work his way back up and make this guy work and make this guy pay, they'll eventually start to break. I just don't know that Font gets up enough times to really gas him. But you're 100% right with that Pava comparison. And that's part of the reason why I don't really want to jump all in on Phillips. He's got a little more 3-fight winning streak, little more proving to do before I'm all in on this kid. Because I was at one point, but he kind of lost my trust.
Yeah, and then out there on the market right now, not available to me yet, but it is available to you and people in legal sports markets. A former sponsor of our podcast has a fight to be won by split or majority decision. I mean, these judges can't figure out anything, Cody. I don't think that's the worst bet in the world. Font, if the fight's staying standing, can keep things competitive, land that jab, and he can land at a very, very high clip, put up some really good numbers while he's on the feet. And but yeah, if Kyler Phillips is able to utilize that wrestling, I think that the split decision in theory doesn't exist. But I mean, Tyra got a split decision this past weekend. So when you have cousin Sal D'Amato, Adelaide Bird, you've got Chris Lee, you got Junichiro Kamijo, you got all these guys in the same room at the same time, crazy things happen. Plus 500 isn't the craziest thing. I mean, I like a lot of, if you're, I'm kind of testing out a new theory with it seems everyone's confused with how these fights are supposed to be scored. The judges seem confused. Nothing's ever cut and dry anymore. Maybe we're just going through a weird segment in time, but with less knockouts from the gloves, seemingly, split decisions seem to be on fire. 2 in the Contender Series last night, 4 of them on the card last Saturday. It's splitting time, it seems. Plus 500. Not the craziest idea in the world. We got Charles Johnson taking on Sumudaerji. Charles Johnson, a minus 210 favorite. Sumudaerji can be had for plus 180. usually pretty used to having Charles Johnson
Yeah.
at dog money, my friend. How do we feel about laying a minus 200 price tag? I mean, he's made some serious improvements. He's
Oh
kind
yeah.
of coming into, the potential that we saw in the regional scene and all of that. The wrestling game is starting to come together. I mean, his last 3 wins, to be perfectly honest, like, I mean, maybe not the maximum one as much, but Jake Hadley seems to have turned a corner. So it's like, that's a pretty good looking win. The Josh Van getting the knockout. Not just that, but it's like he was competitive at least in those first 2 rounds against him. Everything seems to be kind of coming together for him right now. So I totally get why he's the favorite. Sumudaerji, on the other hand, the one saving grace for Sumudaerji is that Charles Johnson hasn't shown too much of a submission game, and that seems to be his absolute Achilles heel. Tim Elliott subbed him in round 1. Matt Schnell subbed him in round 2. Armbarred by Louis Smolka. Choked out by something called a Hawabin Ma back in MILF Wars. I mean, WLF Wars, I'm kidding. But literally every single loss of his career has been submission. I looked at the submission prop for Charles Johnson. It was like plus 350, and I'm like, come on, man. But like, I get why they know almost too well. It's just like Charles Johnson usually isn't a submission guy, but if he was to get his first UFC submission, this would be the spot. I'm gonna side with Charles Johnson, the favorite in this spot. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going Charles Johnson big time. I'm actually surprised that the line's only minus 210, considering we just talked about a Kyler Phillips fight that has, I don't know, considerable amount of red flags as far as I'm concerned. That's minus 450. Johnson's kind of proved himself, man. I mean, he's on a hell of a roll. Even if you look at these losses, the losses are Muhammad Makayev, Ode Osborne on a fight he took on 4 days' notice, Cody Durden, Rafael Estevam. So he's not losing to anybody bad. It's that he has a clear, glaring hole in his game, which is his takedown defense. If you want to take him down and you are a takedown artist, you're good at that, the opportunities will be there. Ode took him down 3 times. Durden took him down 11 times. Estevan 3 times. Makayev 12 times, right? Once they, all of a sudden, if you're Charles Johnson, you know they don't want to stand with you. He's got some pro boxing experience. He's got some decent power for flyweight. Very slick, smooth operator standing. Everyone keeps grounding him. So 2 things happen. 1, he works on his takedown defense big time. And yeah, you don't see it in the beginning, but it's come a long way. 2, the UFC moves him away from those guys that are elite takedown artists and give him some more favorable matchups. As at Maxim, he's the underdog. He got taken down twice. His ability to get back up, withstand everything Maxim had, take Maxim down twice himself, and outlast him physically. Quality victory. The winner for Jake Hadley, like you said, Hadley, yeah, sometimes at 125, he couldn't really make the weight. So at 135, which is what he's kind of fighting at now, he's a lot better. But yeah, Hadley kind of turned the corner a little bit. He's got a lot of skill. To be able to stuff everything he had, keep that fight standing, land some clean blows, looks good. The win over Joshua Van, like you said, competitive through 2, and then probably needs a knockout. If not, definitely needs to win the 3rd round and knocks him out. Van's never been knocked out. He's from Burma or Myanmar, whatever they are calling the country nowadays. Guy's got one hell of a chin on him. He's been rocked. He's been dazed. But Charles Johnson really put him down and put him down hard. Slick little uppercut. So again, if you're Charles Johnson, it's all coming together. He always had really good cardio, good endurance, great chin on him, solid striking. He's really patched up that takedown defense. And now he's on a quality 3-fight winning streak. All quality wins. As at Maxim, that's a very nice win. Jake Hadley's a nice win. Joshua Van is a nice win. This guy is on a solidified, solid roll right now. When you look at Sumudaerji, there's what's there to look at? Wins over Andre Sukumantath, cut. Malcolm Gordon, retired. Actually, Andre Sukumantath's retired and cut. Malcolm Gordon's retired and cut. Zaruk Adashev, I don't know what he's up to, but I can imagine he's probably retired. It's over for him. And then the Matt Schnell fight, he rocks Schnell. Everybody rocks Schnell, and just like that, boom, straight left down the middle. Sumudaerji's southpaw. Rangy left hand, very, very straight with it. Nails Schnell. Schnell just stays in the fight long enough to make it to the 2nd, makes the 2nd a sloppy round, and Sumudaerji falls right into a triangle choke. He then takes not quite 2 full years off, but a year and a half off, comes back against Tim Elliott, and like you said, just immediately taken down and choked out by Tim Elliott. So his grappling is not there. Like you outlined, he's giving up submissions. He's only completed one takedown in the UFC. That was against Andre Sukumatev. That was like 4 or 5 years ago. His last 4 fights, he's not even attempted one single takedown. Him taking down Charles Johnson is probably not on the table. Even if he wanted to take down Charles Johnson, Johnson's defensive grappling, yeah, probably still not good enough to stuff Makayev. Probably not good enough to stuff the elite of the division like Pantoja or somebody. But this guy, Sumudaerji, yeah, all day, all day. So now we got a striking battle against Sumudaerji, who's maybe got a little more power. I don't think. I think he's got less durability, less cardio, less experience against top-level talent, less most things across the board. I like Charles Johnson by a country mile here. So minus 210 for a flyweight fight, yeah, that's its red flag in its own. But outside of that, I think there's a clear favorite. One guy trending upwards, quality 3-fight winning streak. One guy trending downwards, second fight in the last 2 years, both losses. Sign me up for Charles Johnson.
Yeah, I mean it is a little bit jarring because usually he's the underdog, but it's like clearly the market's
proven himself.
Yeah, the market's been wrong on him, and yeah, he deserves to be a favorite in these spots. Particularly the last time out against Van, because like he was a pretty sizable underdog, and like Van, I mean he got me on that one. Van with
me.
Yeah. Van with just the amount of volume and everything like that he usually is able to throw out there, wasn't really able to go, like, even though he has like slow starts, like even in round 2, he wasn't able to like really ramp it up like he usually does. It's like Charles Johnson's the real deal, man. Or at least real deal for like top 15 fringe-ish type of flyweights. So yeah, it'll be an interesting fight. We got Daniel Pineda taking on Darren the Damage Elkins. It's a straight pick. We got a 39-year-old taking on a 40-year-old. Pineda was the minus 130 plus minus 130 favorite like a day ago. So I guess action's coming in on the Damage here. I'm tempted just to side with Darren, just the fact that the gloves have a little bit less pop in them. Pineda does have a little bit of sneaky submission skills, but I think the big differentiator in this fight is cardio. I know that Darren can go the full 15 minutes. If he's not getting finished, if he's staying out of submission attempts from Pineda, isn't getting knocked out by Pineda, and this goes 15 minutes, it probably is a much better bet after the first 5 minutes because Pineda should have some success early, but the Damage will hang around and prevail. So probably a bet that I have more interest in during the live betting, but Elkins for me. What about you?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Pineda on this one, but there's no real good reason. Like you said, 39-year-old versus a 40-year-old. Both guys are very seasoned vets. The one thing that really does separate these two guys is the cardio, as you mentioned. Historically, Darren Elkins has got one hell of a gas tank on him and has always been able to push that pace, whereas Pineda's got all the skills in the world. BJJ black belt, very nice striking. He's a one-round fighter, and if you can extend him beyond that first round, I'm not saying he's going to give up, but he'll lose the second and third round and just lose the decision overall. So this would normally be a good spot for Darren Elkins because, again, he's going to shoot takedowns, multiple takedowns. He's going to grind him up against the cage. He's going to push whatever pace he's got. And Pineda, although the more skilled guy, after the first round is going to start huffing and puffing. When he was 30 years old, he had no cardio. When he was 35 years old, he had no cardio. Him at 39, I don't know, unless he goes back to his World Series of Fighting days where he was on EPO and got caught. Unless he goes back to that, I don't see his cardio magically getting all that better. So Elkins has the better cardio, maybe so, but I just feel like Elkins is all the way done, dude. Like, they call him the Damage because of the damage that he himself receives. And he used to just be a grind axe, but you look at it, it's like he fought, let's bring this up. He fought twice in 2020, twice in 2021, twice in 2022, once in 2023. This is his once and only fight of 2024. They reeled him back to fighting once a year, once every 14, 15 months. Go out there, your body's broken down. You can't do what you used to do, but just give it everything you got and try to grind this guy. And eventually he's just going to run into a problem. Against Jonathan Pierce, he got a few takedowns, but again, he can't hold him down. He's forced to work, and then he just gets doubled up on the strike count. But against TJ Brown, he got 5 takedowns. But against another guy who's mid-30-year-old wrestler, or grappler, sorry, He lands 11 significant strikes before getting that rear naked choke. Against Pineda, if he doesn't get these early takedowns, which I don't think he'll get them early, Pineda's going to box him up. He'll bust him up. He'll make him bleed. He'll win the first round. The second round, it's like you're going to have some magical Darren Elkins storm back. And at 40, I don't know that he's got it in him. The third round, Elkins will be down 2 rounds, and he'll probably rally and win the third round. It'll be a close, sloppy, bloody, both guys are tired type of third round. The judges will give it to Elkins, and he'll ultimately lose a 29-28 to Pineda. So when you talk about split decisions, and you're not wrong, we talked about 2 weeks ago, there's 4 split decisions.
This one's plus 650.
This has got split decisions.
I know. Plus 6. I wish I had access to that book, but I'm not in the right territory. Plus 650, fight to be won by split or majority decision. Like, yeah. Like, if Elkins survives, like, the split decision is just live AF. Sorry, I cut you off. I got too excited. I had to blurt that number out.
No, I mean, I would have done the same thing to you, man. If roles were reversed, I would have jumped in because I agree. It's like, it seems just like a type of fight that the UFC knows what they're doing. It's a swan song for Elkins. He's 40. He fights once a year. He's been very serviceable. He's been a company guy. Let's give him a guy that's also nearly 40, who's on a 2-fight losing streak and not had a whole lot of success as of late, probably near the door as well. Why not do that? But again, they like Elkins. So Elkins' fight have been TJ Brown, Tristan Connolly, Derek Minner, Eduardo Garagori. Like, those are all winnable fights, and he did win those fights. When you look at Pineda, it's like, this guy's washed as well. It's like, bro, you just fought Nathaniel Wood fairly competitively. You fought Bruce Leroy to a decision prior to that. You could say whatever you want about the eye poke against Andre Feely, but he looked pretty good against Cub Swanson early before he ended up gassing in that one. At least he's fighting upper echelon or better-ish competition and losing, coming up short, but hanging a little bit, whereas they're being very selective with what they give Darren Elkins at this stage. So that's a fun fight. It's got Gracie Split written all over it. Yeah, maybe that's the angle you attack with this one, but because I got to make a straight-up pick, I'll go with Daniel Pineda.
All right, we got Asu Almabayev taking on Matheus Nicolau. Almabayev, a minus 185 favorite. Nicolau can be out for plus 160. Your thoughts?
I think Matheus Nicolau's in a really bad situation in his career. So on one hand, he's only 31 years old, which isn't old. Even by flyweight standards, it's not old. So that's not a problem. But like, here's his problem. This kid can't take a punch. He can't take a punch in a division where pretty much nobody's really a power puncher for the most part. Maybe a couple guys, a couple outliers here and there to that theory. But 125 is really not known for those big explosive KOs. And Matheus Nicolau seems to be on the receiving end of them. You look at his entire career, right? This Pedro Nobre knocks him out 12 years ago, knocks him out in the first round. He eventually fights Dustin Ortiz in the UFC in 2018. Dustin Ortiz head kicks him in the first round. So that's 2 losses, both by KO, both in the first round. But whatever, you spread them out. It is flyweight. But then Brandon Royval knocks him out 2 minutes, 9 seconds into the first round, knee up the middle. So Royval's not really known as a power puncher. Dustin Ortiz, my boy, really not known as a power puncher. Pedro Nobre a little bit, mostly because he's fighting salty Brazilian competition. But that's 3 knockout losses, the only 3 losses of his career, and they're all first-round knockout. And then he loses to Alex Perez in his most recent. That one, my friend, a second-round knockout. But beautiful right hook lands on the money, floors Nicolau over. So he has 4 pro losses. All 4 of them are by knockout, 3 of which happened in the first round. You can't trust the guy anymore. You can't trust the guy. And flyweight's so explosive, and there's so much stuff going down at all times. You kind of got to be able to take a shot here and there. If I can't trust that, I really can't trust him. The wins, this is his secondary problem. He's not that durable as his first problem. His secondary problem is that he doesn't really do that much. He himself is not a power puncher. He himself is not a volume puncher. So he mostly just fights a very slow pace. He's technical. It's low volume. And he's looking to not exchange because he doesn't want to get hit. He knows what happens if he gets hit. His win over Matt Schnell, he knocked Schnell out, but it was pretty competitive until then. His fight with David Dvorak, he wins by decision. He got outstruck 39-36 in a 15-minute fight. And his fight with Tim Elliott, I mean, you'll remember that one. Elliott's corner told him, you're up 2. And he was actually 1-1. You need to win the third round. And so when Nicolau shot in, Elliott just clung on to him and just held him there, thinking he was up 2. But by the numbers, Elliott also outstruck him 70-64. Manel Kopp outstruck him 61-55. So that's a win over Kopp that he got outstruck. a win over Elliott that he got outstruck, a win over David Dvorak that he got outstruck, and then he knocked out Matt Schnell, which people have been known to do if you're new to the program. While he's mostly getting outworked, he's not finishing these guys. He's another one of these split decision. Like, if that's your angle, Matheus Nicolau is a split or majority type guy because he's not really putting his pedal to the metal, and he's also got durability issues of his own. So betting him at whatever price, like, he's talented, but like, there's not my kind of guy, not my kind of bet, if we're being honest. Asu Almabayev, meanwhile, he came to the UFC. He had one of these kind of ballooned up records. Like, who's he really fighting? And he needs to test himself. But this is his 4th fight in the UFC now, and he's doing exactly that. His fight with Ode Osborne, 2 takedowns, 2nd round submission win. Clearly, the guy is a takedown artist. He can strike a little bit, but it's more of a Sambo type style. Head's a little bit up in the air, and will shoot something maybe overhand, quick little combination, immediately get in, rear waist body lock, trip you up, take you down. That's where he does his best work. The CJ Vergara fight, 9 takedowns over Vergara. I didn't think he looked great in that fight, but taking a guy down 9 times will do that to you. He still managed to double him up in the significant strike count. Not a bad win. And then his last time against Jose Johnson, 6 more takedowns. I'd love to see a little more ground and pound. I'd love to see a little more threat of the submission, but if he's able to just rinse and repeat and get multiple takedowns, he's going to be a problem. How he matches up with Matheus Nicolau. See, Matheus Nicolau doesn't necessarily have bad takedown defense. That's not a huge issue of his, as much as he's just not really going for it. And I don't know what the judges are going to look at. This counterpunching from Nicolau and maybe 60 significant strikes landed, or 30 or 40 significant strikes landed by Almabayev, but multiple takedowns. So I could see it being contentious. I could see it being a split. I could see it being a bunch of things. But again, for me, I got a guy in Asu on a 3-fight winning streak, getting comfortable in the UFC. Cardio, he pushes a hell of a pace, but certainly not that big of an issue. It's just he's low volume. And Matheus Nicolau, he's low volume as well, but at least a better striker, decent takedown defense. I just don't think that his head's in it anymore. Asu's not necessarily a big power puncher, so Nicolau's probably not going into this fight thinking, I better watch out about not getting knocked out, but it's going to be deep-seated in his mind that my last 2 fights, I got knocked out in both of them. My 4 pro losses, knocked out in all 4 of them. I'm on a bad little slide here. Yeah, he's still only 31, but once you start doubting yourself, it becomes problematic. Whereas Almabayev is not doubting himself. He's on a solid winning streak right now. He's growing within the division. I just need to see a little bit more from him when they do hit the ground so that the judges don't leave anything undecided. Let them know I've clearly won this round. Don't just cling on to the guy, take him down multiple times, and get outstruck by the numbers, because I've seen Nicolau get outstruck in a bunch of fights that I outlined and still get the judge's decision. So you got to watch yourself. This is more of a dangerous flyweight fight than the Charles Johnson one. As far as I'm concerned, this is more of your typical flyweight action, but I'm going to go with Almabayev. I'm not with Matheus Nicolau at this stage.
Nicolau's takedown defense, 93%.
And that would be big for him.
Once in his entire UFC run.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. Tim Elliott took him down once on 10 attempts in that fight. So all I've really seen from Almabayev is rinse and repeat takedowns. And I haven't seen much like any sort of like power in those hands. Maybe you don't really need power in your hands. All this is to say is like the props on this fight are like really, really wild. Like Almabayev by KO is like 10-1 in some spots. Like they are just shoving all their chips saying this fight is going to decision essentially, which it probably should go to decision. Don't get me wrong. 2 low volume guys, especially if this ends up, staying mostly upright. I don't think it's crazy to chase like a little bit of action on Nicolau's chin is just that bad that Almabayev catches with one, and he does his best impression of what was your boy, your Australian boy there, guy who I could knock out.
Shannon Ross.
Yeah, he does his best Shannon Ross impression.
Shannon the Glass Cannon.
Shannon the Glass Cannon Ross does that. I don't think that's too crazy. So I'm gonna go with you. I'm gonna side with the guy who looks more durable, basically. When all is said and done, the guy who when he takes shots doesn't take them so horribly. Like even when Nicolau's not been knocked out. Like we've seen him get absolutely cold cock rocked, and like just he doesn't take shots very well. So I'll side with that on this fight, but kind of interested in taking a flyer on Almabayev KO and just hope that for my bank account, not for Nicolau's health and safety. That's a totally different conversation. But I think that this line's just a little bit overcooked to that. It's like, I'll take a shot that like Nicolau's chin is completely done, and Almabayev picks up a very, very rare KO win here. We got John Matsumoto taking on Brad Katona, -240 for Matsumoto. Katona can be had for +200. Your thoughts?
I got Matsumoto. It's the price that I'm kind of struggling with. Is that you got a guy here in Brad Katona that's won the Ultimate Fighter twice. He's kind of a crafty veteran. When he fights like a crafty veteran, he's a problem for a lot of guys. When he fights these stupid game plans, these SBG Ireland game plans, stand with the guy, poke and prod, little jab, fancy to the outside, he's leaving it open for debate. I don't like him in those spots. You look at these inconsistencies from him. Second run with the UFC, of course, so we'll only talk about since he come back. Wins the Ultimate Fighter against Cody Gibson. Lands 160 significant strikes in that fight. Gibson landed 164, so defensively it wasn't a great performance, but at least landed a ton. His very next fight with Garrett Armfield, for the first 2 rounds, he does nothing, Paul. He just allows Armfield to jab him from the outside. He attempts no takedowns. He gets nothing going. He drops the first 2 rounds at home in Toronto. And then in the 3rd round, decides, I'm going to take Garrett Armfield down. Immediately passes, immediately gets in a dominant position, wins the 3rd round, no problem. Unfortunately, dropped the first 2 and just like didn't go after it. They booked him against Jesse Butler his last time out. Just Jesse Butler's not very good, so how do you gauge it? But it's another decision, and there's a theme here. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fights in the UFC. All 7 of them have gone to decision. Not one single split. All unanimous. It's either pretty clear he beats you or you beat him. But he's inconsistent in tying these good performances together. Wrestling would be his best bet. Yeah, he's got some decent technical boxing, but especially in this matchup with Matsumoto, like that's not your path to victory. Box him up a little bit, get inside the pocket. You need to be able to take this guy down and wear on him. But the more damaging blows will be coming from Matsumoto. The bigger shots all around will be coming from Jean Matsumoto. And then even if you do try to take him down, I just don't know how much success you're going to have there. So Matsumoto's only 25. When you watch the regional show tape on him, he can do it all, man. He can offensively wrestle. He can defensively wrestle. His jiu-jitsu is pretty solid, but his striking is very, very good. You've seen him on the Contender Series against Casey Tanner. Puts up 100 significant strikes. Gave up a couple takedowns, but got back up. Volume looked okay. I think he's a solid prospect. UFC debut against Dan Argueta. Argueta shot 19 takedowns on him. Got 9 of them. The kid was constantly glued up against the cage, constantly trying to get back up, constantly trying to free himself and get some space. He did start to look tired as far as I'm concerned, but he had never been in a fight like that a day in his life. And so right at the end of the 2nd round, he catches Argueta shooting a sloppy takedown, converts it for a guillotine choke, wins the fight. Those are the type of fights that are going to allow this guy to dig deep when necessary. I think in this matchup with Katona, again, if Katona wants to shoot multiple takedowns like Argueta, I think he'll have a lot of success holding him up against the cage. Katona, BJJ black belt, better than Argueta on the ground. His wrestling's not as good as Argueta's, but on the ground, he's better than Argueta. So if he can get 2 or 3 takedowns, he'll have a lot more success with racking up top control time. And then again, his striking really isn't half bad. It's that I just find myself not really wanting to trust him. And you're a decision fighter. All your wins are by decision. You need to trust the judges to get this right, which they hardly ever do. Again, it's just not really my style, whereas Matsumoto will be landing the more damaging shots. I don't think he knocks out Katona, who's very durable, but he should be able to outland him, land the more eye-catching blows, and then maybe mix in a takedown of his own. Mostly just sprawl and brawl, keep this fight standing, but be the more technical guy, land to the leg, lands to the body, win that way. I don't love this money line, I really do, but Canada has seriously let me down on the Contender Series and the UFC in the last number of months, so Brad's kind of in for a tough one, I think. I think Jean Matsumoto's in for a very bright future. Katona's an excellent barometer test. If you think Matsumoto's a fraud, yeah, I think Katona's live here, but I'm kind of leaning towards Matsumoto's the real deal, and this won't be a very easy fight for him, but they're going to be the kind of fights that are going to allow this guy to be a much better 27, 28, 29-year-old fighter. So sign me up for the Brazilian.
Yeah, the Matsumoto fight against Argetta, considering that we're coming off of Argetta taking on Cody Hadden last week, um, looks doesn't look great because like he definitely struggled mightily in that fight. He was getting back up, but he got taken down 9 times and kind of needed. I probably frankly needed that guillotine choke to get his hand raised. Because the way that fight was going, it was just rinse and repeat. Dan Argetta was able to get off on that wrestling. Maybe that speaks more to how solid Cody Hadden was. I think he showed up a lot more prepared than I kind of expected for those types of exchanges, and his hands were super, super crisp, everything like that. So it probably has a little bit more to do with that, but I don't know. I think at this number, I think it's dog or pass, and just stay out of a guillotine, Brad, and just there's nobody in the crowd. We're at the Apex. Nobody's going to be booing, trying to get you to stand back up. Just get takedowns, hang out in top position, try to hold this kid down, and do that for at least 2 out of 3 rounds. I think it's a dog or pass situation, so I'm going to go with Katona here until Matsumoto shows an ability. See, the thing with it is Katona, he's got his flaws and stuff like that, but he's durable. He's durable and he's got half decent wrestling. It's like I feel like that's probably the way to beat John Matsumoto at this stage in Matsumoto's career. Obviously, Matsumoto's only 25. Expect him to make some big improvements as we go along here, but this could be a little bit of a too much too soon type of fight for him. So I'll go with the underdog, Brad Katona. We move into the CF dot model point of the card. We got Joselyne Edwards taking on Tamires Vidal. Edwards, a minus 260 favorite. Vidal can be had for plus 220. I don't know if it's a CF dot model on this one. It would be for Pat Mayo. Tamires Vidal I just don't know. Like that GIF or whatever, like what is it that you do here? That's how I kind of feel like when I watch Tamires Vidal. Outside of, the flying knee win to Ramona Pascual, which had all of the, it was just kind of straight up hilarious. The Eileen Perez fight where they were fighting in like an abandoned gym in the backwoods of Argentina, or wherever the hell Samurai Fight House 2 was. That was quite the scene where AFP got herself where she got herself disqualified there. And then these last 2 fights in the UFC, shows us she doesn't have great takedown defense. Volume's not really quite there. I'm not quite sure what she really brings to the table. So, in spite of the CF dot model, the pick for me will be Joselyne Edwards, who I think just has a much more well-rounded skill set, maybe able to mix in wrestling, has long reach, and some pretty solid volume to go along with it. I guess Vidal's one advantage is power, but how often does that really pay off at women's 135 pounds? Not all that often. So, CFF model for me. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, Joselyne Edwards, another one of these 8 fights in the UFC. All 8 of them have been decisions, right? 6 of them unanimous, 2 splits. So these fights are always going to the scorecards. They're always fairly close. But yeah, she's just the tale of 2 fighters. Her last fight against Eileen Perez, she got taken down 6 times. Her fight before that against Nora Carnole, she got 5 takedowns. Her fight before that against Lucy Pudilova, she got taken down twice. Her fight before that against Jen Yan Kim, she took her down. Her fight before that against Ramona Pascual, she got taken down. Jess Rose Clark took her down 5 times. Carol Rosa took her down 4 times. And yet when you look at her fight, what's her path to victory? Takedowns. She can't defend a takedown. But yeah, she can lean on opponents and maybe get them down. She'd be rocking a 33% takedown accuracy for the record. But yeah, like Edwards' fights are always very close. And like, hate to drum up this thing that we've been talking about with the split decisions. When you're always, okay, how do we get a split decision? Well, the one thing is you need a fight that's going to go
Wrestling versus
decision.
striking is probably key.
Yeah, yeah.
these
And
days.
in this case, it's like low-ish volume. She shows by the numbers 4.35 strikes landed per minute, which is actually pretty decent. But it's only 2 fights. She put up 164 against Ramona Pasquale, who's a punching bag, and she put up 101 in a fight against Ji Yun Kim, which she won a split decision in because it was nothing more than jabs. So she's not a high volume striker. Let's be real. She'll land 50, 60, maybe, mostly jabs, not a whole lot of power, mix in a takedown or two. I thought she beat Nora Cornell, even though she got outstruck 40-18. The 5 takedowns, the control time, I thought she won. It was in France. But again, when you're getting outstruck 40-18, doesn't matter that you got multiple takedowns. And then her next fight against Eileen Perez, she got knocked down and then also taken down 6 times, so just washed out. You give her a pass on that one because Eileen Perez is actually pretty decent. But a lot of these other ones, Nora, Lucy Pudilova, Jin Kim, Ramona Pasquale,
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
pretty bottom of the barrel. So how does she match up with Tamires Vidal? Well, Vidal's got no striking offense because she's mostly getting taken down. Melissa Gatto is actually good though. Montserrat Rendon, I wouldn't say good, but at least that was a competitive split decision type fight. She's coming from an area where she's got very little resources to train, and now she's starting to get a little bit more, right? I think she's 26 years old. I think she's 26 years old, so still maturing, still getting a little bit better. I got Joselyne Edwards, but it would not shock me for this just to be an absolute outright stinker. That being the least shocking part, but an absolute stinker that results in a close, contentious decision. That, well, Tamires threw the flying knee. Tamires landed that one big right hand. Tamires stuffed a few takedowns. Joselyne Edwards landed a few jabs, a few low kicks, landed a few takedowns. Up in the air. So Joselyne Edwards minus 260. That was the current price tag, right?
Yeah.
That just sounds wild, 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 and very far fetched. Not saying she can't win, but her path to victory is making this a snoozer, and those are very open to getting jobbed. So,
Fight ends in split. Not available yet, but
all right.
make note of that.
And fight goes the distance. I'm gonna guess is minus 450, minus 385 would be best on market. Like, they know it's going to decision. Surely it's going to decision.
Yeah, fun. All right, we got Elise Reed taking on Jessica Penne. Elise Reed, a minus 170 favorite. Penne can be had for plus 150. Your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, well, it also comes down to kind of just like wrestling. I'll admit, right? And when we talk about the PRP later, it's kind of favorite heavy. But from the men's matchups, we outlined Matheus Nicolau, if he can keep this fight standing, and then Paul with Brad Katona. Those are my favorite. I guess I would say the 2 best men underdog picks if you were going to pull the trigger on a guy. The women, these things are way open, dude. We just talked about Tamires Vidal. She could definitely squeak one out here. And Jessica Penne, it's much of the same. She's older. She's very old by divisional standards. She's been around a long time. She's not what she used to be, but she's still a high-level BJJ black belt, and she has an ability to get to certain positions. She doesn't need a clean takedown as much as she needs 2 underhooks, use that body lock, pull you in tight, slink one hook in, you fall to the ground, next thing you know, she's got you backpacked. She's capable of doing it. You've seen her most recently, her last time, 3 years ago, but against Lupi Godinez, right? She got 1 takedown in that fight, but ended up racking up 4.5 minutes of control time, most of which was on the back, enough to get the decision. Her fight with Karolina Kowalkiewicz took her down. Immediately, she catches her in the armbar. Swift little win. Her black belt's legit. Her grappling's legit. It's that historically, she's not been a very good striker. She does not move her head when she is striking. She's willing to come forward, but she's got no power, does not move her head. We used to make this joke back when it was bookie beatdown back in the day, but like, she got a giant schnoz on her too. So like, when it gets hit, it gets busted up. It's not a great look. The judges see it. It's busted. It's bleeding. Her eyes start to water up. She loses these decisions.
Science, fact. What we saw.
I know, we were dicks back then. Now I'm a father of 2. It's like, what if my daughter ends up with a big schnoz, you know? So I'm a little more chill these days. But point being though is that she's a gangster. She wants to mix it up. She wants to come forward. She wants to throw down. She's got legit grappling. Emily Ducote wrestled in college. It is also a BJJ black belt under Rafael Lovato Jr. That's a pretty tough matchup. Then they give her Tabitha Ricci, who's a world champion Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, pretty decent enough wrestler. Those are not the kind of matchups she's going to be able to do anything in. But against Elise Reed, what's up? What's up? Point fighter, point style karate, back foot always, jab, move, jab, move. Got taken down 5 times by Lupita Godinez, but got choked out by Lupe. That's concerning. Lupe gets takedowns, sure. Lupe chokes around the second round. Gives up her back, gives up her rear naked. Penne's live there. Her fight with Jinyu Frey, a 40-year-old, 105-pound fighter, she got taken down 3 times. Her fight with Loma Lugbume, a 105-pound Thai fighter, she got taken down twice. Melissa Martinez took her down despite having 0 wrestling. Sam Hughes Mulder with 4. Corey McKenna with 3. Sanjara Eubanks with 1. In 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 UFC appearances, she's giving up at least 1 takedown in all 7 of them, and overall has a 42% takedown defense. So Jessica Penne could get this fight to the ground. And if she does, she would have a considerable advantage. I go Jessica Penne, dog. I go Jessica Penne.
Penne by sub, maybe.
Penne money line seems decent enough, but yeah, no, you're right. I think Penne could get the back, could get the rear naked, could fall into guard, could grab an armbar, could do all that. But I just see her coming forward, and then you got Reed just jabbing and moving backwards, jabbing, moving backwards. It's the Apex. It's a smaller cage. It's women 115 pounds. You can't just run away the whole time. This fight's going to hit the ground the same way the last 7 of Elise Reed's fights have. And at that point, it's who's on top. And having Jessica Penne on top is a problem. You can look at the 2-fight losing streak, but again, world-class opposition, or at least high-class opposition. This should be a lot more favorable for her. It's CF doll model all day. There's 2 men plus money that are okay. There's 2 women plus money that I like. This being the other one. This last one's even money. What do you really know?
Yeah, my brother.
But I think Penne at plus money is worth a look. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just bad at this sometimes. Sometimes I just, I'm just not great at finding my time to get back in there. Yeah, no, Reed. There's no way on earth I would ever bet Elise Reed with a minus next to her name. I don't care if I'm wrong, but like I don't think there's like a matchup in this division that I would that I would feel comfortable laying chalk with Elise Reed. So yeah, this one just screams CF dot model, the Pat Mayo special. All over Jessica Penne. May take a shot on the submission prop, but money line seems more than fair. We got Melissa Martinez taking on Alice Ardelean. Minus 120 for Martinez. Ardelean can be out for plus 100. Pretty much a straight pick 'em. There was a little bit of a move. I think it was like minus 140 or plus 120. So there's been a little bit of action coming. Isn't this Alice girl the one that has like the weird like social media?
It's not weird. She's mega popular on social media, Instagram, TikTok, OnlyFans.
It was weird though, wasn't it?
I don't get it.
It was kind of.
But I'm an old man now, so I'm not supposed. She's an old person too, for the record. But I don't know. I don't know. She's obviously doing something right.
She's way more popular on social media than us, so that is. But we're not out there on the streets anymore all that often. Well, you get to a certain age, and it's just like. Maybe it just means that we're bad touts, but it's like I just can't really be bothered with like the fist pumping and the chest pounding and like the attention grabbing behavior and stuff like that of social media these days. I don't know. I just don't care anymore. I've gone soft, I guess, Cody. I mean, her social media now that this time that I go through it doesn't look nearly as weird as the last. Oh, no. Yeah. You go about 10 or so things down and things start to get a little bit squirrely here.
Starts to get weird again.
Yeah, it's looking weird down here. But frankly, her social media looks a lot more fight-centric for her last like 5 or 6 posts. So that's got to be positive. I don't really know. I know that Martinez's brother was on Contender Series the other day. Do you have a hot take on this? Because I really don't have much of a take on this fight, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I don't really got like the hottest take, but I'm gonna take Melissa Martinez. Similar theory to Elise Ardelean the last time out is that Ardelean is 32 years old, Romanian fighter, has no notable wins. She lost to Diana Belbita by submission. She lost to Christina Stanciu. Hardcores like Paul will remember her. She lost a 4-4 Sylvia Juskowicz. And then, Zhang Weilei, no one's going to hold that one against you. But that gives you a little bit of notoriety. At no point has she ever defeated anybody that I think was a good fighter. She hasn't really been all that active. She hasn't really done much. She's got an excellent social media. So the UFC brings her in to take on Shauna O'Bannon. And Shauna O'Bannon is awful. Let me reiterate that. Awful. But, it was a bit of a blind bet. It's like Shauna Bannon has a bit of grappling on the regional scene. When she would win, it was due to her grappling. And Ardelean's mostly just more of a stand-up girl. She got some okay boxing, decent enough striking. Grappling is leaves a little bit to the imagination, let's say. But yeah, she can stand up a little bit. Bannon in the first round does nothing. It's a bad first round. Ardelean wins it. Second and third round, Ardelean just doesn't really have much of a plan B or C. She can try to search for a takedown, but she's not an excellent grappler. Her boxing, eventually she starts getting tired. There's just really no redeeming factor to her. She was initially supposed to take on Rayan Amada in this fight, so an undersized fighter. That still would have been a tough fight, I guess. And I got Melissa Martinez jumping in short notice. Reason I'll take Martinez here, and this is pretty well even money still, yeah?
Yeah, it was minus 140, but now it's minus 120. Like, it's pretty much a pick 'em.
Yeah, pretty much a pick 'em. So money's definitely coming to Ardelean, and I get it, because you could go CF dog model in women's MMA plus money, and this is a dogger pass type fight. I get that. The reason I end up going with Melissa Martinez is, one, this is a girl that's been kickboxing basically her entire life. You saw her brother recently on the Contender Series. He won. He got the contract. Also comes from that kickboxing base. She's a former Waco champion. Not that that means anything, but she does have quite a few kickboxing matches. That's where she thrives. You look at her MMA career, she's dabbling between kickboxing and MMA for the most part, but Kombachi America has her go healthy 7-0. She beats Desiree Yanez in a 5-round title fight to win the title. That's in 2019, okay? So she's still only 27 years old, but she hadn't had a fight since 2019. She took 2020 off, 2021 off, and 2022 makes her UFC debut against Elise Reed off a 3-year-long layoff. So she didn't look good against Elise Reed, let's be real. But Elise Reed had like 5 or 6 UFC fights at that point. It was striker versus striker. Elise Reed, the key to beating her is taking her down. And Melissa Martinez is more of a kickboxer, although she did take down Elise Reed, if you can imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
She just didn't really get the better of the exchanges, kind of tired a little bit, kind of just got basic and one-dimensional and just start getting hit. And Elise Reed, again, she's a point-based fighter, but she backpedals a lot. So it gets very frustrating for these people that want to engage and have a slugfest, that you're constantly having to chase your opponent. So in any situation, she does not look good. And that was in 2022. She pulled out of a fight with Yasmin Lucindo last year in 2023. And now she's coming in short notice against Ardelean. She's had one fight since 2019, which being that Elise Reed fight. So in the last 5 years, she's competed one time, and it was a loss to Reed.
And she got knocked down.
But she's only 27. Yeah, I know, and she got knocked down.
Knocked down by Elise Reed. I mean, this fight just has the epitome of red flags. There's red flags everywhere. This is so I can understand why people took the dog shot, but I'm gonna side with you as well. I think it's 27. Her brother was just in action. She's taking some time off after, to shake the cobwebs after Elise Reed knocked her down. But she was still able to go to decision there. She had 2 years off, make some improvements. Ardelean may be able to get takedowns here, don't get me wrong, but hopefully we see some improvements from Melissa Martinez, but not a fight that I feel like I'm going to have any sort of significant action on. We got the heavyweight banger. Interesting fight here. We got Robelis Despaigne taking on Austen. Lane, minus 350 for Robelis, plus 280 for Lane. Obviously, Robelis Despaigne is 6'7", 84-inch reach, incredibly long, very, very powerful, can't grapple for a lick, has no grappling whatsoever. Takedown defense is a big question mark. Waldo had really never tried to wrestle anybody until he's like, okay, I'm taking on a 6'7" kickboxer from Cuba who has an 84-inch reach. Better put on my singlet here. And he was able to, make it look pretty easy, get tons of control time. Credit where credit's due. Robelis, he wasn't completely fish out of water on the grounds. Was able to, not get submitted, I suppose. That's really the only positive spin you can put on that performance there. He was a decent-sized favorite against Waldo, and boy, oh boy, did that look pretty bad in hindsight. I think the UFC knows what they're doing here. I mean, they're both super, super tall, 6'6", 6'7". But what we have seen, sorry, from Austen Lane, a former NFL football player, obviously is going to have a wrestling advantage early in the fight. But what we have seen from him is that, like, if he gets those takedowns, he just doesn't really have, the cardio to carry forward, to continue the fight. And that's kind of exactly what happened against Jonathan Denise last time out there. He's like, he was able to get the takedown in round one, but it's like, then what? Well, you kind of gassed out, and at 4 minutes and 10 seconds, didn't really ever get close against a kickboxer in Jonathan Denise. Didn't ever get close to really much of a submission threat or anything like that. And only went 1 for 4 on those takedowns. And then Jonathan Denise absolutely lit him up like a Christmas tree very quickly into round 2. So I think it's kind of similar. I don't feel good about laying minus 350 with Robelis Despaigne, but if he was able to get the full 3 rounds, get the full distance against somebody, a much better opponent in Waldo, frankly, than Austen Lane, I just don't have much faith that Austen Lane can go in there, shoot takedowns, and do that for 3 rounds without gassing himself out and getting knocked out. So Robelis Despaigne by knockout. And it really comes down to whether Austen Lane can get to the hips before he gets knocked out, in terms of like which round it happens. But I think eventually Robelis gets him. What about you?
Yeah, I think the UFC knows exactly what they're doing booking this matchup, and that's put Robelis Despaigne. Let's get a little return on our investment. Give him a highlight reel KO. Everyone will forgive the fact that he cannot grapple at all. And then, we'll build him up to having one of these interesting kickboxer type fights. But Robelis can bang. Listen, we know all that. He's got a Taekwondo medal at the Olympics. The guy's very athletic, even though he's 36 years old. He's Cuban, so that's basically the equivalent to being 26 years old. This guy's good to go. All of his wins part of the UFC, right? First round knockout, 12-second knockout. Stevie Payne, 3-second knockout. Miles Banks, 4-second knockout. Miles Banks is actually pretty good for the record. He's 6'7", 260 pounds, and pretty decent fighter. 4-second knockout. Josh Parisian, quite literally an absolute mope. The only thing the guy can do is he can take a decent enough punch. He's one of these inbred guys, can take a few smacks to the head before he goes down. No, not against Robelis. 18 seconds, puts him over. So the guy can crack. And then so what kind of opponent do we want to match him up against? Austen Lane has 5 pro knockout losses. All of his pro knockout all of his losses are by knockout. He's 12-5. All 5 of them by KO. Most of those KOs been pretty quick. Greg Hardy, 57 seconds. Frank Tate, who was 5-5 in his very next fight, 241 of the first round. Vernon Lewis, 410 of the first round. Justin Toffa, 2 fights back, 122 into the first round. And then Jonathan Denise in his last fight, 212 of the second round. So when we talked about a guy like Matheus Nicolau, all of his losses are by knockout. You give a little more of a pass to Austen Lane because at least they're heavyweights. But all the same, some of these knockouts are coming within the first minute, the first 90 seconds. Robelis just lands 1. You're done. So what do you need to do? Not stand with him, is take him down. And then taking him down is just not enough. You got to take him down and finish him right away. Because if you take him down and you just hold on, start of the second round, you're getting iced. Start of the third round, you're getting iced. There's no fans in the Apex, but at some point, the ref's going to stand you up. You're going to get iced. I think this is a great live betting opportunity because Lane will 100% shoot for the takedown early and might get it. But Paul outlined this fight. He hit every single point I had. Lane is this big NFL player. He's used to quick little... He's not even used to playing. He's more of a practice squad guy, bench warmer. But football's these quick little kinetic energy type plays. Big play, take a bit of a breather. Big play, take a bit of a breather. Oh, coach is calling you on the sidelines. The other guy's getting in. Like, it's not a consistent 15-minute excursion. He's gassed out in a lot of these fights. His wins are first-round knockouts. His losses are largely first-round knockouts. You can't really get behind it. So let's just talk about how is it going lately. Well, 2 fights back against Justin Toffa. They ran it back because the first one was an eye poke. But the rematch, let's say, he shoots 0 takedowns. You're taking on a guy that's a kickboxer. He's got more than enough power to knock you out and also has 0 ground game. And you choose not to take him down. It gets iced. So they book him against Jonathan Denise. Denise is another kickboxer with no ground game. This time, Lane, I learned. Smart guy. He learns. So he does get the takedown, and he gets into a dominant position right away at the beginning of the round and spends 4 minutes doing nothing. No ground and pound, no submission threat. He holds Denise down. The next round starts, he went 0 for 3 in takedowns in the second round. 2 gassed. Can't get him down. Even if he could get him down, he wasn't doing anything with the position. So Robelis, the fact that he got grounded his last time, it's a bad look. But as, again, Paul already outlined this, he lasted all 3 rounds. He went 15 full minutes. He survived all of the spots. Yeah, he's taking on a pro boxer who's easily out-grappling him, but he at least was defensively sound. Now you give the guy another 4 or 5 months to get in the gym and just focus entirely on that. He'll come out here a little bit better. Scenario 1 is that Lane stands in front of him for 2 seconds too many. He's getting KO'd stiff in the first round. Scenario 2 is Lane takes him down, holds him down for the first round, gasses, gets KO'd stiff in the second round. Yep. But I think if you bet it live after the first, if it even makes it to the second and Lane takes him down, bet it Robelis live after the first. This is not a rinse and repeat. He's going to get taken down over and over. When you look at Waldo Cortez Acosta, he had gone to decision in his fight prior with Arlovsky. He went to decision with Marcos Rogério de Lima. He went to decision with Chase Sherman. He went to decision with Jared Vandera. The guy's a decision machine. He's got 15-minute cardio all day. He's a heavyweight who's a little bit undersized and just conserves himself and doesn't overexert. So that's not what he's getting here in the lane. He's getting a guy that's very muscular, very heavy set, turning 37 in 3 weeks. This is a second career opportunity. I can tell you he's got 5 major concussions in MMA. I couldn't tell you how many major concussions he has in football, but I bet you it's quite a lot, especially when you're a practice squad guy, man. That's where you take the serious damage, right? So, yeah, when it first got announced, I was like, ooh, Robelis hurt me again. Actually, we faded him in that loss, so not hurt me again, but I'm willing to overlook that abysmal fight that you had the last time out and give you the nod. I thought it would be a little bit closer to like Robelis minus 175, Robelis minus 200. So minus 350 for a heavyweight fight where both guys are in theory trash. Yeah, like that part you're not going to like, but the UFC has a very explosive, entertaining kickboxer, taekwondo guy, striker. This is what they love, Paul. Alex Pereira, they beeline him to a UFC title shot. Now he's their biggest star. They brought in Cesar Almeida because he had a win over him. They brought in Vakatov because he had a win over him. But this is being matched to build back Robelis, and I'm here for it. I'll be betting him.
All right, and finally we've got Jake Hadley taking on Cameron Smotherman. No odds on this. Hadley was already on this card, but unfortunately Brady Heistand had to pull out. That was going to be a pretty great fight, to be perfectly honest. Hadley's had a bit of a complicated relationship with the UFC, but seems to be kind of turning the page. Smotherman got a bunch of wins over regional level competition. When he fought on Contender Series, he got knocked out in the first round by Charlampos Grigorou. So I expect Hadley to be a massive favorite here whenever they do open the odds. And it's going to take quite a uncanny number, I think, for me to even consider Cameron Smotherman. What about you?
Yeah, I'm agreeing. I got to see the odds on it for sure, but I would say that this is going to be in Hadley's favor. It's got a couple reasons, right? So
like minus 400, minus 500, I would expect. Like it's going to be a big line.
It'll likely be a big line, yeah. And I don't know. With Hadley, he's one of these guys that's ultra talented, but then a massive letdown. And you saw him on the Contender Series against Mitch Raposo. He misses weight, and the matchmakers don't like him. He loses to Nascimento, taken down and controlled. Candelario, nice little win. Malcolm Gordon, nice little shot to the body. Misses weight against Cowlin Louthran in his last time out, even though he moved up to 135. Like, he's had a bad relationship with the scale, bad relationship with the matchmakers. But he's got a lot of talents, just whether or not the weight cut's not so bad and whether or not he's mentally dialed in. He can definitely wrestle. He can definitely grapple. His boxing's pretty tight. His durability is not bad. His cardio is good, pending a good weight cut. Him at 135 should be better weight cuts, but again, he just missed weight at that weight class. I think he's talented enough. I think he probably goes out there and just is able to outwork his opponent. But I would also say that the big advantage is that he was getting ready to take on Brady Hiestand, right? And specifically with Brady Hiestand, the kid is a wrestling machine. He just took down Garrett Armfield down 6 times. Before that, Dana Baccarel 3 times. Before that, Fernie Garcia 3 times. Before that, Ricky Tercio 6 times. The guy shoots 4.8 takedowns average. Yeah, a 480 on takedowns on his average per fight that landed nearly just under 5 takedowns landed per fight. And as far as him averaging all around takedowns, he'll shoot 10 or 15 per fight. So Hadley would have 100% gotten ready for a grueling wrestling type battle where he was going to have to offensively wrestle. I think that's going to be the key here. Because I like Cameron Smotherman, but I've been following this guy for a long time. He can't wrestle. He's like big, tall, skinny. Where's his height? 5'9", 135 pounds. It's not like the most tall, but when you see him, he's physically just like a built long fighter. You look at some of these losses, right? Shane Torres, BJJ black belt grappler, able to just take him down. CJ Jimenez knocks him out in 13 seconds. Christian Strong out grapples him. His loss to Sharmbalos Grigoriou on the Contender Series the first time, knocked out in a minute. So here lies his two biggest issues. Knocked out in a minute by Grigoriou, who's awful, went on to go 0-2 in the UFC and has really proven to be the absolute worst guy on the roster for the weight class. Knocked out in a minute and then knocked out by CJ Jimenez in 13 seconds. His chin's really not that great. His defensive wrestling isn't that great, taken down by Shane Torres. He decides to build himself back up after the Contender Series, right? They bring him into Fury. That's usually where he fights. He beats Mando Gutierrez. He runs into this Ryan Cuse. Ryan Cuse is the 3rd Street Savage, trains at the Goat Shed in Florida. He's a D3 wrestler. Ryan Cuse takes him down at will, holds him up against the cage at will. Smotherman's local to the Fury FC cage. He's a fan favorite over there. He ends up winning a split decision based on he landed a little bit more, but he cannot wrestle. So then when the UFC calls you, you've already lost on the Contender Series in a minute flat, getting KO'd. You're now 27 years old. You've been waiting for this opportunity. You're going to accept anybody. So you accept Hadley. And if Hadley strictly just keeps this fight standing, he may knock out Smotherman because he's got lots of power. He loves to rip the body, which is always open on Cameron Smotherman. And Smotherman's got 2 losses, both by knockout in a minute or under. So there's a path to victory for Hadley, who's also had the full camp. But it's the wrestling. I'm telling you, Jake Hadley could take this guy down and ground him. He's got very slick jiu-jitsu. He's got a nasty triangle choke. Only guy to submit Carlos Candelario. Almost caught Cody Durden in an inverted triangle choke in the second round of their fight. The guy's got some sneaky tools up his sleeve, and I think if he gets his fight down, he should be able to easily just smother Smotherman, essentially. If the fight stays standing, you're at least giving Cameron Smotherman a chance to get that jab going, to get some of that output-based striking that he's got, get it going. But I still think that Hadley might be able to just knock him out. The only issue is if Hadley shows up on the scales looking like shit and gasses out, because we've seen that version of him as well. So if they tell you it's minus 450, even though I'm down because I think he wins, you got a former flyweight, ballooned up at 135, struggles to make weight there. Matchmakers hate him. Organization doesn't seem to love the guy. And he's inconsistent sometimes in some of his fights. And they're going to tell you he's minus 450. That would be the issue as far as I'm concerned. Outside of that, matchup-wise, style-wise, I think he beats Cameron Smotherman, who I like. I love watching his fights. They're entertaining. You know, it's a fun little scrap. This is a bad stylistical matchup for a Jake Hadley if he's on, and I'm expecting him to be on. So I'll take Hadley. We got to wait to see what the price is, but he'd have to be like minus 700 or something for me to take just a flyer on Smotherman, and that's not going to happen at this weight class. So the pick will be Jake Hadley.
Yeah, I'm just looking around at all of the all of the books that typically will open up and not seeing anything. So, yeah, we'll see. I think we'll see probably later on Wednesday night that somebody will step up to the plate and drop an opener. But I would expect at least minus 400, minus 500 to be perfectly honest. Like it's not like Smotherman is some top end prospect he would have been invited back on Contender Series, right? If they really thought there was something here long term, and that didn't happen. So, yeah, I mean, if Hadley drops this layup, it could be time to get packing for him. So he should be very motivated on Saturday night. All right, we're just about out of time here, but before we go, hit him with the PRP code.
Yeah, so again, it's mostly favorite oriented, but there could be a couple sneaky plays. We're gonna go with Anthony Hernandez at the top, Kyler Phillips, Charles Johnson, who I do like, Jake Hadley, who I like pending on the price. I'm gonna go with Daniel Pineda. Me and Paul are a little torn on that one. Asu Almabayev. I'm taking him. But Nicolau is a decent looking dog if he can keep it standing. John Matsumoto, I'm going to take him. Brad Katona is a decent looking dog if he keeps standing. I'll take Joselyne Edwards, although that's a dog or pass type fight. I'll take Jessica Penne. She's officially dog number 1 for me. Melissa Martinez is a bit of an even money fight, and then we're going to take Robelis Despaigne. It's all about the order. Despaigne I like, but I can't put a shitty heavyweight on the top ticket. Although it's the first fight, I wouldn't want to do that to my viewers. And then what else are you putting at the top? I like Hadley. Oof. Former flyweight. I like Charles Johnson a lot. Is a flyweight. Kyler Phillips, super untrustworthy. Hernandez, yes. It also does create the hedge out, I guess, at the end, but who do you put Hernandez with? So there's a little bit of tinkering around that I still got to do. And of course, watch weigh-ins because there's a couple that I'm interested in seeing what they look like on the scale. But as a whole, yeah, I actually don't mind this card. I'm just hoping that the pieces fall into place, but I think it could be an okay one.
All right.
And like Paul mentioned, PFL same weekend, tons of fights there. I think there's a bunch of shows going on. But yeah, there's going to be lots. Let me just see what else is open right now. So there's the PFL card. There's a KSW card and an LFA card as well. So not saying you got to get down to that level of degeneracy, but when you get looking at a UFC card like this and you think to yourself, do I want in on this Joselyne Edwards or Tamires Vidal, or Elise Ardelean versus Melissa Martinez? You want in on that? Even Elkins versus Daniel Pineda, you want in on that?
I mean,
well, maybe look at those other shows and you're going to find something you like more. That's all I got to say.
All I've got to say is Melissa Martinez versus Alice Ardelean. You could slap that on any of those other cards and it wouldn't seem out of place either, right? Just because it has the 3 letters in front of it, UFC, doesn't really make it a higher level fight than any of these other promotions, to be perfectly honest.
If it was on Jake Paul's most valuable YouTuber series, it would not look out of place at all, being right after Ben Davis's fight. It really wouldn't. You got one girl that's a TikTok and Instagram model who knows how to fight, but not at an elite level, versus a girl whose brother looks pretty decent. He's going to do some cool shit in the UFC, but she knows how to fight, but really for the most part, I'm not seeing some deep wealth of potential. You book that on Influencer Fight League card all day long. But you're right, dude. This is the UFC, and this is what we're betting on. So we're choosing to do it to ourselves when we can look at this PFL card, find a couple parlay boosters. We could look on the LFA card. We could look on the KSW card. Certainly some better options anyways than what you might get yourself forced into on this UFC. So it's an exciting weekend for combat sports. We just got to be on the right side of things.
Yes, sir. All right, that is it for us this week. Hope you enjoyed this show. For producer Jared and Cody Saftic, I'm Paul Shaughnessy, saying goodbye and good luck.
Ow, ow, ow.